Hello and welcome back to Retfurb. So on today's video we got this set of 1998 Rockshox SIDs. These are the first generation of Rockshox SIDs available. So I'm going to be giving them a complete overhaul, which includes stripping them all down, painting the lowers, new decals, servicing the internals, and then they'll be ready to go again. So I'm just going to go around and just test the seals because they were supposedly leaking air, so I'm just going to spray a bit of water around. I did pressurize them beforehand, so I'm just going to do that. I come to the conclusion that I can't see anything, but I will be replacing all the seals anyway, and then hopefully when it goes back together they'll be okay. Now after I do this, you'll notice that there's a little bit of the video which has been cut out. There was a file error when I recorded it on the camera, so there's a slight bit missing. It's not much, it's basically the two top caps that I took off, which I'm showing here now. And in a minute when we get to it I'll be pointing to those parts so you can see, and I took off the V-brake mounts. So you can see now, just here, that's the two caps that I've removed using a set of adjustable spanners. You can obviously use the right size spanner to do it. And then I'm now going to remove the lower bolt, but to do that sometimes it will spin. So you need to go in the top as well with another Allen key, as you can see, and just hold that bit in place. There's an Allen key part in the top when you go down through the stanchion, and then you can just hold that in place, being very careful. Obviously you don't want to scratch anything inside, and then that'll allow you to undo the bolt, which I'm doing now on the right of the screen. And then once that's removed, then the stanchions can be slid out. Now I've already done the other side. I managed to miss that out on the file. I'm not sure what happened. There was some sort of error. So I'm just pointing there, that's a small seal at the bottom. So that's just an oil seal, so I'll be replacing that also. So now I'm just sliding the stanchions out, just taking care when doing that. So straight away I can see the stanchions are in pretty good condition. There's no major wear. Obviously there's going to be a little bit of wear from the age, but there's no big scratches or digs or anything like that. So that's pretty good. So they're definitely worth doing, worth saving. The main issue with these forks, really, the lowers, although they don't look too bad in the screen at the moment, all underneath the corrosion's got in under the paint. So you'll see shortly just what I mean. So now I'm just prizing out the top wiper seals. Again, these are going to be replaced. I've got a full set to go back in there. So you just need to take care when you're doing that not to scratch anything inside. I always remove the small metal rings that go in the seals first, because I've done it before and damaged them. So I learnt my lesson on that. So I remove them and then just prize them out, and then you can just pop them back in after if you're reusing them. So now I'm just going around just giving them a general wipe off before I go further. So now I'm just scratching the leg, just so you can see the amount of corrosion that's underneath. Now it's not really bad, but it's got under and it's just lifted all the paint, and when you look at them closely they all look like they've sort of lifted and bubbled. So you can just see there how easy that was to just peel off. So now I've just taken them outside. I'm just going to sand them down, so using a coarser sandpaper first just to get rid of the worst of it. Now I do scrape off quite a lot of it just by hand, and I've got a small plastic scraper that I use to scrape most of it off, any of the loose stuff, and you can see that come off quite well. So now just a bit fast forwarded most of the blues off now, and I'll just work around with the sandpaper. So I've gone down with a finer grade now. I think I was using 600 at the moment on this. You don't want anything too coarse, obviously, to leave any scratches. It just makes it harder when you go further. So now jumping back into servicing the forks. I couldn't get one side of the cartridges out on one of the legs, so I've managed to get one side out, which I'm showing here. So I'm just going to give that a clean. To be honest, I don't think they really needed it, but obviously servicing them and just trying to show what's involved, I wanted to do it. But the other side, I got the O-ring out, but it was just so tight it wouldn't budge. So I thought, I'm not going to try and do it and potentially damage it. I left it in there. The actual cartridge is moving up and down alright. I just couldn't get that small sort of lock ring piece at the bottom out. So now I'm just wiping down inside. Again, I do this on both sides, but I just push the cartridge down on the other side. And now I'm just greasing up the seal, just putting a little bit of oil on there, a little bit of fork oil just to help it go back up inside. And then we can start putting the pieces back on the bottom, and then get the small little washer in, and then the circlip in place. So I'm not sure why the other side was so difficult. You can see there on the screen the two circlips that I've taken out, one for both sides, but I just couldn't get it out. It was just, no matter what I did, it was just too tight. And like I said, I didn't want to force it and potentially damage it. I've heard of people damaging the cartridges on these before, so there'd be scrap if I did that, so it's just not worth it. So now fast forward into the future, you can see that the lower legs have now been painted. So I'm just going to give them a wipe off again after the paintwork, just to get rid of any sort of residual grease and stuff that was inside. I obviously cleaned them quite well before I painted it because I didn't want any issues whilst painting, but I'm just going to go in and just make sure there's nothing left inside after the paintwork's been done. Obviously it was all masked up, so there was nothing that, you know, would have got down paint wise. And here you can see a brand new set of Rockshox seals that I've got. So you know, these are grey and not black, but this is how they come. So I'm just going to push them in. Sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. I mean, I used a tiny little bit of degreaser on the rubber just around it, just to slide them in easier. You know, I wouldn't really put too much grease in that on it. You could smear a tiny little bit of grease in it, but if you can get away without doing it, it's better. You can get tools to knock it in. It makes it a lot easier than trying to push it in by hand, but I don't actually have one, so I've just used my hand and pushed it in, and it went in the end. And now exactly the same on the other side. And then just putting that small metal piece back on. So again, I take them off before I fit them, just in case I damage it. And then there's these two small wiper foams that go just inside where the seals are. You'll see in a minute where I'm putting them. So I'm just going to douse this in fork oil first. And then there's a recess where these get pushed inside. And now I'm just using a bit of fork oil again on the stanchions, just so I can slide them in easier. So this is actually a Fox fork oil that I'm using at the moment. I don't have any Rockshox oil, but it's the same equivalent. I think off the top of my head it was 7.5 weight that you use on these forks. I can't remember. I'll put it in the description, but I'm pretty sure it was 7.5 weight. And it's 10mm in the bottom of each leg, which we'll get to shortly. And then it was 5mm in the top of each leg, which again we'll get to shortly, and I'll point that out again. So now I'm just replacing the seals on the lower bolts. There is also some crush washers on here, which are plastic, which I couldn't find to replace. So what I did in the end, which I don't actually show, is I got two small copper washers, which do exactly the same thing, and I fitted them on. Obviously the new seals have gone on now, which you can see, but I fitted those copper washers on, and then that sealed it nice and tight. And now you can see now I'm going to put the oil in the bottom, which is 10 milliliters or 10 cc each side. And then just compressing the fork. And now the bolts can get fitted. So again, like I said, I don't actually show it on here, but I did take these back out and put some small copper washers on there, which will do exactly the same thing as the plastic washer. Just taking care when you thread them back in, you don't want to be cross-threaded, so just try and get it in as far as you can with your fingers. You'll know that if there's any resistance, then you know you're cross-threading it. And then again, just to lock this one in place, I had to put the Allen key at the top and in the bottom to lock it. And then putting the V-brake mounts back in place. And now changing the seal for the top cap. So you can get the replacement valves for these top caps as well online. Now they're not the cheapest of things to get, and I am going to replace these. I don't actually do it at the moment on these, but I am going to replace them, and I will do a video separately just to show how to do that. But I'm going to see if I can do it a different way, and if I can, then I'll obviously show exactly how it's done. And now 5 cc's each side of the top of the leg. And then we can get the top caps fitted back in place. So these were actually missing the small little screws which go above the air valves. So I'm going to try and see if I can find something to replace them. I do have another set of 1998 SID forks as well, which I'm going to do, which are all intact. They've got pretty much everything on them. Where they've got all the rubber boots and they've got the small screws and nothing's missing on them. So I will be doing them again at some point as well. So you can see here I've just polished them, I flattened them down, gave them a polish, and now they're ready to have the decals fitted. So these decals I made up myself to match the originals, which they came out pretty good, you'll see shortly when they're all fitted. So that's the SIDs on the left of the screen now that I've got to do in the future. Again, like I said, they're all complete, they're just a bit rough. They're actually rougher than these ones were with regards to the corrosion. They've actually sort of left pitting in the metal, especially on the top sort of crown section, top brace section, so to say. And now I'm just fitting all the decals in place. So just taking care when I do this to not leave any bubbles. So all that's left to do on these really now is just fit the other decal and then pressurize them up. Now I put 70 PSI in these. It goes off the rider weight, so that was roughly about right. And that's it. So just now they're all ready to be fitted to the bike. As you can see, they come out really well. I'm really happy with them. You'll see now this is the bike they've been fitted to, my GT STS, which I've been wanting to put the 98 SIDs on because I had 99 on there originally. So yeah, I hope this has helped someone in the process. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.